At midnight, my phone rang. It was my neighbor Daniel, and his voice was shaking. He whispered, "Emily, whatever you do, don't step into your garage." My heart jumped into my throat. I asked him why, but he just said, "Please trust me." A few minutes later, the motion lights outside flicked on, and that's when I finally saw what he meant. If you're hooked already, make sure to subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love hearing your stories. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 34 years old, and I live in a quiet neighborhood with my 10-year-old daughter, Lily. We moved here after my divorce, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was building a safe and stable life for her. Most nights are calm here. The street is small, almost like a cul-de-sac, and everyone knows everyone. Daniel, my next-door neighbor, has been like family to us. He's in his early 40s, kind, and always ready to help. Lily calls him Uncle Daniel, and she loves when he fixes things around the house or brings her little surprises from his garden. That night had started like any other. I tucked Lily into bed, kissed her forehead, and switched on her nightlight. "Mom?" she asked sleepily. "Will you leave the light on?" I smiled and said, "Of course, sweetheart. Nothing's going to hurt you while I'm here." I went downstairs, made myself a cup of tea, and sat on the couch, finally feeling like I could breathe. I had no idea that within the hour, I'd be clutching my phone in terror and whispering to Daniel as danger crept closer to my home. The sound of my phone buzzing at midnight was enough to set me on edge. No one calls at that hour, unless it's an emergency. When I saw Daniel's name glowing on the screen, I answered immediately. His voice was low and urgent. "Emily, don't step into your garage." At first, I thought I had misheard him. I sat up straighter on the couch and asked, "What? Why not?" There was a pause, and then he repeated himself more firmly. "Please, Emily, listen to me. Don't go out there. Just trust me." My heart started racing. I could hear the seriousness in his tone, and it shook me. Daniel wasn't the type of man to exaggerate or panic. He was level-headed, the kind of neighbor who checked on people during storms and brought in packages when you weren't home. So if he was warning me like this, something had to be terribly wrong. I looked around my living room, suddenly hyper-aware of every sound in the house. The refrigerator hummed, the heater clicked on, but underneath it all, I thought I heard something faint outside, a creak, like wood shifting under weight, followed by what sounded like a soft scrape. My mind immediately jumped to Lily upstairs. She was asleep in her bed, completely unaware of what was happening. A wave of fear washed over me. I whispered into the phone, "Daniel, what's going on? You're scaring me." He didn't answer right away, and that silence made my chest tighten. Finally, he said, "Just stay inside. Lock your doors. I already called the police. Don't open the garage for any reason." I stood up, clutching the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. My legs felt heavy as I moved toward the kitchen window that overlooked the side of the house. The blinds were halfway open, and I peeked through them. The backyard looked still and empty. The motion light above the garage was off, leaving everything in shadow. For a moment, I wondered if Daniel was mistaken. Maybe he had seen an animal or something small that set him off. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. The sound came again. This time it was clearer, closer, like someone brushing against the side of the house. My throat went dry. I whispered again into the phone, "Daniel, someone's out there, aren't they?" He answered with a heavy breath, "Yes. Stay calm. They don't know you're aware yet. Just stay away from the garage." My pulse thundered in my ears. I turned off the lights in the living room, hoping to make the house look dark and uninviting. Then I tiptoed to the front door and checked the lock twice. The thought of someone lurking just a few feet away from where I stood made my skin crawl. I wanted to run upstairs, scoop Lily into my arms, and never let her go. But I also didn't want to wake her and terrify her unless I had no choice. I decided I needed to make sure all the windows were locked. Moving room by room, I pressed down on each latch, double-checking them, all while keeping Daniel on speaker. He stayed on the line, his voice calm but firm, guiding me like a lifeline. "Stay quiet. Keep yourself safe. The police are on the way." Every small sound outside made me flinch. I thought I heard a low cough, then the crunch of gravel shifting under weight near the garage. I imagined someone crouched in the shadows, waiting for me to step outside so they could slip in. My stomach knotted with fear, but there was also anger building inside me. How dare someone bring danger to my home, to my child's safe place? As I moved toward the staircase, I glanced again at the back window. My breath caught as I noticed the faint glow of the motion sensor light flicker, and then shut off again, like it had been triggered for a split second. That meant movement. That meant someone was there. My knees went weak, and I grabbed the railing for support. "Daniel," I whispered sharply into the phone. "They're right by the garage." I saw the light. He answered quickly, "Emily, don't panic. Just keep Lily safe. They won't be able to get inside before the police arrive if you stay locked in." His voice was steady, but I could hear the tension underneath. He was scared too. I went upstairs and opened Lily's door just enough to peek inside. Her nightlight glowed softly against the wall, and she was curled up with her blanket, breathing peacefully. The sight of her innocence made my chest ache. I stepped in, locked her window, and pulled the curtain shut, whispering more to myself than to her, "Stay asleep, baby. Stay safe." Back in the hallway, I pressed my ear to the wall. I thought I heard the faint metallic sound of someone trying the garage door handle, My body went rigid. The garage was only a thin wall away from the kitchen. From us. I tightened my grip on the phone and whispered, "Daniel, they're trying the door." He replied instantly, his voice sharp but controlled. "Emily, stay upstairs. Don't move. The police are almost there." The seconds felt like hours. My whole body was tense, every muscle coiled tight, listening to the faint sounds outside. I could feel fear clawing at my throat, but I forced myself to stay still, to keep quiet, because now, I wasn't just protecting myself, I was protecting Lily. I stood frozen at the top of the stairs, every nerve in my body stretched tight as the faint sound of the garage door handle rattled again. It was subtle, almost careful, as if whoever was outside didn't want to be heard. But I heard it, and I knew Daniel had been right all along. Someone was really there. My breath quickened, and I pressed my hand to my chest to keep myself from making a sound. On the phone, Daniel's voice was low and urgent. "Emily, stay calm. Don't go downstairs. Stay upstairs with Lily." I swallowed hard, whispering back, "What if they get in? What if the door doesn't hold?" He paused, then said, "The police are close. I can hear the sirens in the distance. Just trust me a little longer." That's when I realized I had a choice to make. I could keep waiting in silence, hoping the locked doors and Daniel's reassurance would be enough, or I could take steps to protect Lily if things escalated before help arrived. The thought of that stranger walking into my house while my daughter slept filled me with a kind of strength I didn't know I had. Fear was still there, gnawing at me, but it was mixed with something fiercer, determination. I crept back into Lily's room, this time more deliberate. She was still sound asleep, clutching her stuffed bunny. I went to her closet and pulled out the small wooden bat I kept tucked away. It wasn't much, but in that moment, holding it gave me courage. I crouched down beside her bed and whispered softly, "It's okay, baby girl. Mommy's here. You don't have to worry." When I stepped back into the hallway, Daniel was still talking through the phone. "Lock yourself in a room if you have to. Keep something between you and them." His words guided me like a lighthouse in the dark. I checked each upstairs window once more, making sure they were secure, then moved back to the stairwell. From there, I could hear the faint shuffle outside again, footsteps pacing near the garage, then silence, then the sound of gravel crunching as if the person had moved closer to the side door. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might give me away. I crouched low at the top of the stairs, peering into the shadows below. The kitchen looked ordinary, the nightlight glowing faintly, but I knew danger was only feet away on the other side of that door. The thin wood and glass between us suddenly felt fragile. "Daniel," I whispered, gripping the phone, "what if he tries another way in?" He didn't hesitate. "Then you stay with Lily and keep quiet. Don't confront him. Just hold on until the police knock at your door. They'll be there any second." His calmness steadied me, but it didn't erase the terror clawing at my chest. I made the decision then to stay upstairs, but not helpless. I positioned myself in the hallway with the bat in one hand and the phone in the other. From where I stood, I could see both the staircase and Lily's bedroom door. If the worst happened, I would have at least a fighting chance to protect her. I whispered to Daniel, "I can't just hide. If he makes it inside, I have to do something." Daniel's voice softened. "I know, and you will, but you're not alone in this. I'm right here, and the police are right around the corner." Seconds ticked by like hours. Then the motion light outside the garage flicked on again. I gasped and pressed my back against the wall. A long shadow stretched across the driveway, moving slowly. I peeked through the upstairs window at an angle, careful not to be seen. That's when I caught the outline of a man crouched behind my garbage bins, his shoulders hunched, his head shifting as if he was listening for movement inside the house. My stomach dropped. He wasn't random. He looked purposeful, like he knew exactly where he wanted to be. I whispered to Daniel, my voice shaking, "He's hiding behind the bins. He's waiting." Daniel's reply was sharp. "Emily, stay where you are. Don't let him trick you into opening anything. The police are seconds away." I pulled the curtain shut and backed away, but I couldn't shake the image of that figure crouched in the shadows. Every instinct screamed at me to protect my child, to be ready for whatever happened next. Fear and adrenaline battled inside me, but the choice was clear. I would not let that stranger get near Lily. Then, faint but unmistakable, I heard the distant wail of sirens growing louder. Relief washed over me, but it was tangled with dread because the man outside must have heard them too. I gripped the bat tighter, my eyes locked on the staircase, ready for whatever would happen in those next crucial moments. I whispered into the phone, almost like a vow, "Daniel, if he tries to get in before they arrive, I won't let him touch her. I promise you that." The sirens grew louder, slicing through the night like a promise of salvation. I pressed my back to the wall, clutching the bat with both hands. The intruder outside must have heard them too, because the shuffling sounds near the garage suddenly turned frantic. My chest tightened. This was it. The moment everything could change in a heartbeat. From the upstairs window, I caught the briefest glimpse of movement. The shadow that had been crouched behind the bins bolted toward the side of the yard. The motion light snapped on, flooding the driveway in harsh white. That's when I finally saw him clearly, and my stomach dropped. He wasn't some stranger. He wasn't a faceless threat. He was Marcus, my ex-husband's old friend. My knees nearly buckled at the recognition. Years ago, Marcus had sat at my kitchen table, eating burgers at family barbecues, and laughing with my husband about high school memories. He had once played catch with Lily when she was a toddler. Now he was crouched in the dark with a crowbar in his hand, dressed in black, his face twisted into something cold and dangerous. I whispered into the phone, my voice breaking. "Daniel, it's Marcus. I know him." Daniel cursed under his breath. "Stay hidden. Do not go downstairs. He's dangerous." My head spun. Why Marcus? Why here? My heart ached with betrayal, but I didn't have time to dwell on it, because Marcus wasn't running away. He was trying the side door now, shaking the handle violently, as if desperate to get inside before the police arrived. The sound of metal on metal filled the night, the door rattling under his force. I clutched the bat tighter, my whole body trembling. My first thought was Lily. I ran back into her room, locking the door behind me, and crouched low beside her bed. She stirred but didn't wake, and I silently thanked God for that small mercy. I whispered into her ear, even though she was asleep. "Mommy's here. You're safe." The sirens were deafening now, closer, filling the street. I peeked through the small slit in Lily's curtain and saw the red and blue lights reflecting off the houses. Relief washed over me, but Marcus must have realized his time was running out. He gave up on the side door and bolted toward the back. The sound of heavy boots pounding against the ground echoed through the yard. My heart lurched into my throat, fearing he'd try another way in. Then, suddenly, flashlights cut across the yard. Police officers were shouting, their voices commanding and firm. "Stop right there! Drop it!" I held my breath, gripping Lily's blanket with one hand, the bat with the other. For a moment, I couldn't see what was happening, only hear the chaos, the pounding of footsteps, the sharp bark of orders, the scuffle of bodies colliding. And then it was over. I heard the unmistakable sound of handcuffs clicking shut. I dared to peek again, and there he was. Marcus, pinned to the ground by two officers, his face twisted with rage as they pulled the crowbar from his grip. My body sagged with relief, tears springing to my eyes. Daniel's voice came through the phone, steady and firm. "They've got him, Emily. It's over. You're safe." My legs gave out, and I sank to the floor beside Lily's bed, sobbing silently. All the fear, all the adrenaline poured out of me at once. Within minutes, there was a knock at my door. "Police, ma'am. You can open up." I hesitated, still clutching the bat, until Daniel's voice called from outside. "It's okay, Emily. I'm right here with them." Slowly, I unlocked the door and stepped into the hallway. Two officers stood there, their faces serious but kind. Behind them, Daniel's eyes met mine, and for the first time that night, I let myself breathe fully. One officer asked gently, "Are you and your daughter safe? Did he get inside?" I shook my head, my voice trembling. "No, thank God, no. She's asleep. She doesn't even know." They explained that Marcus had been caught with tools and a small bag filled with zip ties and duct tape. The thought made me sick to my stomach. It wasn't just a break-in. He had planned something far worse. My chest tightened as I realized how close we had come to a nightmare I couldn't even bring myself to imagine. Daniel placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "You did everything right. You stayed calm. You kept Lily safe." I nodded, though tears blurred my vision. Inside, I was breaking apart, knowing that someone who had once been welcomed into my home had turned into a threat against it. As the police led Marcus away, he glared at me with eyes full of hatred. That look will stay with me forever. It wasn't random. He had chosen my house, my family. The betrayal cut deep, but the relief that he was caught kept me standing. When the flashing lights finally faded and the street grew quiet again, I tucked Lily's blanket tighter around her and kissed her forehead. She slept through it all, safe and untouched, while I carried the weight of what almost happened. I sat in the hallway for a long time, Daniel beside me, both of us silent. My hands still shook, and I kept the bat at my side, unwilling to let it go. The house felt different now, no longer just a safe haven, but a place I had defended with every ounce of strength I had. That night changed me. I learned that danger doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it wears the face of someone you once trusted. And I also learned that in the darkest moment, when fear takes hold, the love for your child can give you the strength to stand your ground. When the police cars finally pulled away, and the flashing red and blue lights faded into the distance, silence settled over the neighborhood again. But it wasn't the same kind of silence I had known before. This silence was heavy. It clung to the air, thick with everything that had just happened. I closed the door, locked it, and leaned against it, my whole body trembling from the release of adrenaline. Daniel stood nearby, his eyes steady on me, as if making sure I didn't crumble right there on the floor. I went upstairs to check on Lily. She was still sound asleep, wrapped in her blanket, her little nightlight casting a soft glow over her room. Looking at her, peaceful and unaware, brought me to tears all over again. I bent down, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "You're safe, sweetheart. You're safe because we were lucky tonight." In that moment, I realized just how fragile safety can be. It's something we take for granted until it's shattered in an instant. Downstairs, Daniel sat at the kitchen table, waiting for me. His presence was grounding, like a reminder that I wasn't alone. I sat across from him, my hands shaking as I gripped a mug of tea I couldn't even bring myself to sip. For a while, neither of us spoke. Finally, he broke the silence. "Emily, you did everything right tonight. You kept calm, you stayed with Lily, and you trusted me when I told you not to go out there. I nodded slowly. If you hadn't called, I don't know what would have happened. Daniel, I might have walked right into the garage. I could have put myself and Lily in his hands. The thought made me shiver. He leaned forward, his voice steady but firm. That's why we look out for each other. You don't ever have to face this alone. His words sank deep, and I knew he meant them. Later that morning, when Lily woke up, she bounded into the kitchen, full of energy, asking if she could have pancakes for breakfast. She had no idea about the nightmare that had unfolded while she slept. I made her breakfast with shaky hands, but I smiled and laughed with her, refusing to let her see my fear. She didn't need that weight on her shoulders. She needed her childhood intact. After she ran off to play, I sat alone and thought about Marcus. His face kept flashing in my mind, twisted in anger as the police dragged him away. How had someone I once let into my home become the monster lurking outside it? I realized then that danger isn't always a stranger in the shadows. Sometimes it wears the face of someone familiar, someone you once trusted. That truth stung more than anything else. In the days that followed, I installed stronger locks, added security cameras, and made sure the police kept me informed about Marcus's case. But the biggest change wasn't in the locks or the cameras. It was in me. I no longer moved through life assuming safety was guaranteed. I became sharper, more aware, more protective, not just of Lily, but of myself. At night when I walked through the house, I checked the doors and windows twice. I didn't see it as paranoia anymore. I saw it as survival. And while fear was still there, so was strength. That night had proven to me that when it came to protecting my daughter, I was capable of standing firm even in the face of danger. Daniel continued to check in every day, making sure Lily and I felt secure. One evening, as we sat outside watching Lily play, he said, "You're stronger than you think, Emily. You didn't just survive that night. You fought for her in every way that mattered." His words stayed with me, not because they erased the fear, but because they reminded me that fear didn't control me. Love did. The lesson I carry now is simple, but powerful. Never ignore your instincts, and never take safety for granted. Trust the people who truly care for you, because sometimes their warning is the only thing standing between you and disaster. And most of all, hold on to the people who matter. They are your anchor when the world shakes. I still think about how close we came to tragedy, and every time I hug Lily a little tighter, I look at her and remind myself that she is the reason I stood strong, the reason I refused to crumble. That night could have ended so differently, but it didn't. And I'll never stop being grateful for that. As I close this story, I want to leave you with this thought. Life can change in a single moment. The people you trust and the choices you make in fear can shape everything that follows. That night taught me to never underestimate danger, but also to never underestimate my own strength. If this story gripped you, make sure to subscribe to my channel and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love connecting with you and hearing your stories.